Facebook and YouTube. We're just waiting for the radio station to catch up to us, and then we're gonna go. About a minute, so enjoy the music.
To all our fans out there, peace.
Okay, good.
Statements and opinions made on the following program are not necessarily those of this station or its affiliates. Fighting corruption with Anthony Greco. Fighting government corruption, the real gangsters.
Greetings from the corrupt criminal enterprise we know as Nye County. I am Anthony Greco, and this is my show. This is a call-in show. I need people to stay on topic today. Our call number is 775-751-2579. I'm going to have Paul, my guest. He's going to introduce himself, and I asked him to give a little bit of his background. This is a very interesting problem that's going on with him, and I want to give him as much time as possible. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Anthony. You're great for having me out here, and the opportunity to have this show and try to help the community is amazing. And, people like you, I wish there were just more people like you that are really going to try and do what's right in the best interest of our community members. We have a lot of farmers and animal owners that are out here that work their life away just to pay their taxes and to survive. And the last thing is we just don't need to be getting attacked. And what you're doing is amazing. I just want to say thank you.
Thank you very much. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. It's
well,
my calling.
If you get detained unlawfully, it sets off something inside of you. And then, in my opinion, and by the way, the rest of this show, of course, is just going to be in my opinion at this point until competent court can decide what way things go. But we do have our own way of working with things. Being in real estate, I had mentioned on Mr. Dwight Lilly's radio show, we operate in equity. So it's different than the officers who are limited to operate in ordinance and NRS. The problem that they're having is they don't seem to understand that they're still financially responsible for all of the damages that they're causing. Like, for instance, I have an invoice here that's up to over $45,000 just in property that they've taken and destroyed for our farm. That's a lot of money.
Sure.
And every day it's going up. And I'm billing myself out at $175 an hour for everything that I have to do to straighten out the damage that they did to me, to my character, to my business, to my gas station, and I have several businesses. So I guess at the end of the day, our goal here is to help mankind. When I started this project with hemp, we were on the pilot program, and we were protected, and the state of Nevada sets this pilot program up for the higher level of education. What we are doing is we are the first experiment farmers growing the hemp, doing what we're trying to do, and getting things going with our farm production. But in the end, there is some growing pains, and there is some gaps, and some things are falling between the gaps. And what's unfortunately happening is our farm is being attacked as one of the first ones that's being attacked. I think that other folks have had that happen, but not a lot of folks have gotten together yet and said, hey, what are we going to do to make it different?
Right. See, the biggest problem here is if you're starting a new industry and they're trying to learn from you, and somebody keeps putting these bumps in the road, they can't really learn what's happening.
Well, you see, that's the game. That's what they've done to us as Hispanics for generations and generations. They've used us. They used us to build the sidewalks. They used us to build the brick walls. They used us to put the asphalt down. And then certain individuals want to kick us out. Well, after we've done all the hard work, now you want to get rid of us? I mean, we're not that bad, man.
They did it to the Italians in New York. We laid all the cobblestone roads. We did all the buildings, the masons. Why do you think they brought people here from Italy? Because they were masons.
Adolf Hitler. Look at Adolf Hitler. His plan was a 3-step plan. It was not a 1-step plan. It was first, let's tell everybody these people are bad. Then let's build these concentration camps because we need a place to hold them. And then, well, it's costing a lot of money to keep them in these camps and to feed them. Let's just start killing the Jews. Was that the ultimate solution, or is it? No, because we as man learn from our mistakes. The important and most important thing here, in my opinion, is that we take into consideration that if we know where we have been, then we know where we are going. The Boston Tea Party, for instance. Let's also discuss these patents that the United States government has put on THC, on CBD. Well, you patented the crud out of it, and now CBN comes out. You understand, when you're dealing with Mother Nature, part of Confucius's theoryisms of in an oppressive community is just to be still. Not to fight back, not to battle, not to attack, but to be still and document and prepare and educate yourself on what you could do different to make a change. And that's what we're trying to do here at Grow Boat Farm, is actually make certain individuals that are breaking the law accountable for their actions. You know, one thing I'd like to say on this radio show today is, as a community citizen member of Amargosa Valley, United States of America citizen, I represent several folks throughout my life. I've probably had thousands that have signed duties owed forms and that I represent. And there's a couple really, really important things that we want to get out here. Number one is, when you represent somebody, you have a fiduciary responsibility to them. The representation comes with certain elements. These elements are care, obedience, accounting, loyalty, and disclosure. Now, if one of those elements is interrupted, then I have failed in representing my clients as a real estate agent or as a talk show agent, whatever you want to call me today. If I'm letting a portion of that not be there, the integrity of that representation isn't there, then what happens is you have corruption. What happens is you have people acting out of their own personal agendas rather than what they're actually there to do, right? This is a republic of the United States, for the people, by the people, and I intend on keeping it that way. And I'm going to keep working as hard as I am right now and collecting as much information as I can in order to tell these individuals who are not only sinning and trespassing against God, when they come into our establishment, do you know that on the U.S. Department of Agriculture discrimination forms, anybody can go to the U.S. Department of Agriculture website, fill out a discrimination form, and do you know that spirituality is one of the protected classes right now?
Really?
So our store, called Guadalupe's Energy Fuel and Farms, kind of has to do with a spiritual thing, right? We have crosses outside of our establishment. We have crosses on our walls. And our religion is to love. And love is our religion. You know, maybe we should play that song real quick, you know? What I'm saying, though, is that when you are giving, when you are staying still, it's really interesting, because the individuals that are packing up and creating evil and darkness and trying to come in and trespass on your family, your farm, your enterprise, they're exposed very easily when you're a still individual, because you go through life without trespassing on other people. So then when someone does trespass, it's very easy to see who's doing it. Now, if you're just out there doing whatever all the time, then yeah, you don't know who's trespassing, what's going on, when it is, how it is.
Well, here's something I just want to tell you. You're talking about trespassing.
Yeah.
At the last Academy of Deputies, the sheriff said that she was the animal tamer, and we were the animals. So that's her attitude towards us. That she has to tame us.
And that I'm going to give you the second. I said there's two things I want to tell you earlier, and I gave you one of them. The second one is, as a citizen of the United States of America, I authorize the United States government, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, anybody to seek and start the investigation necessary under the RICO Act that is already in place against the Nye County Sheriff and other corrupt individuals that are here operating illegally with more than 3 people in a criminal enterprise in the United States of America. As a citizen on this radio show, I authorize the United States of America and the Federal Bureau of Investigation to please start documenting these individuals' conversations and get this under control.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Now, you know, I talked about RICO once before. I turned around and told Brian Coonsey I was going to
RICO works both ways.
Exactly.
They don't. Nye County thinks that they,
Right.
That's the important thing here, is that nobody gets away with anything.
Right. So now what we need to do is, how did this start?
Well,
why did they come into your place?
It
somebody
started.
make a complaint?
Well, originally we believe so. We believe that possibly it could even be an internal employee at the Nye County level that has called after our first public interview, when we had requested to the Nye County elected town board for this application for a medical marijuana establishment.
So
that same night, we were raided by the same detectives that trespassed that night, and now they trespassed at my store this time.
Okay, which town board are you talking about?
Amargosa Valley Town Board.
Okay, that's an elected town board.
We are an
now, right?
elected town board, yes.
Okay.
So technically, we still have some of our own ordinances to be adopting. So when those officers had showed up at my establishment, the only question I had asked him is, what ordinance or what law are you operating under? And he could not answer my question.
And which deputy was that?
There's a list of them here that I can provide you with before I leave. I don't want to put up and bring their names up at this point yet on the record.
That's fine.
And let me tell you why, Anthony. I believe that every one of these officers also has children at home, maybe has friends with those children that are in school. I don't want somebody picking at them because they have made a mistake.
Very
the
good.
important thing here is that we put into effect some precautionary measures to protect the people.
Okay.
And that's what I wanted to get to next. As you see my ID right here.
Right.
This is a Department of Agriculture certification given to pesticide applicators and licensees who go through an extensive class and pass an extensive test.
And it's good until November 13th, 2021.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And what that does is it comes with a 5-year prison sentence and a $50,000 fine. If you make a mistake in any of the stuff that they teach, which is from applying pesticides, poisoning the groundwater, destroying evidence, could be. My point is, if I have to have this to grow cannabis, hemp, why doesn't the sheriff department, each deputy that's going to be coming into establishments, have to carry the same ID?
Well, actually, don't you have a government agency that oversees you anyway?
Well, I'm also licensed under the real estate division, and I'm also a licensed real estate agent 47810 for Nevada Southern Realty.
Okay, so now shouldn't the sheriff's department came to you with the people who license you?
Correct.
To see if everything was done properly?
Well, they tried. See, they sent the people out that licenses us that morning, and they gave them instructions to citation us. However, when that individual came out to our establishment, he checked the licensing and said, I don't know why they told me that, because you are innocent until proven guilty, Paul. It seems weird, but somebody had told me that I'm supposed to citation you, but I'm not going to do it because you haven't done anything wrong and all your licenses are in place.
Okay, good.
So at that point, I showed these deputies that came in our licenses, but they were not interested in doing any type of pre-litigation there with me at that point to try and save the civil suit that the sheriff's office could be facing now.
So do you think that they came in there without proper authority? That's I would see that. And also, why would they try to damage your business? Is somebody else going to, in your opinion, is somebody else going to gain by this?
Well, first of all, I have a high school education, and I've done several college courses. I've also went to the United States Navy and fought for our country for a period of time there in the Middle East. I did the best I could when I got out to get back on my feet and to reestablish myself. You know, what we're going to do here is try and keep working with these different situations and these different individuals. The important thing here is that we look at the other competition that is in our area. And the reason why I wanted to get into that, but also tell you a little bit about my history first, is because I was a damage controlman in the Navy. We're DC men. Our job was to eliminate the problem, control the damage, isolate it, and we were also chemical, biological, and radiological warfare decontamination trained. So we were the folks that helped these guys out quite a bit, and we tried to get out on the field and bring people in and keep them safe. We would be the ones that would administrate the atropine in a situation of chemical warfare. What we are doing here is trying to make these individuals accountable, but some people just don't learn. See, this was a letter that went out 2 days before they had found Mr. Dennis Hoff passed away. And this was a letter that went out, and this was delivered to Mr. Jim Marsh on 10/15/2018. This basically was a letter that claimed that there was over $300,000 in damages to my fuel station and to my property, to my family's good name, and that we were going to call him out as responsible for that amount of damages at that point. He has still not stopped damaging our farm, damaging my gas station. He has intentions.
Jim Marsh?
He has intentions to move forward with his own fuel station, but for some reason, rather than just entrepreneurializing himself across the street where he is, he has become asphyxiated on me and my fuel station and tried to cause harm and malice to us several times.
Now, how long do you have this place? Because I know it was empty for years, because I had looked at it many years ago.
I've had it for 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it was empty for how, at least 7?
It was empty for almost 10. I want to believe it was almost 10 years. There was a short period of time where I think a lady came into that store and ran it for a few months under Wagon Trails Market, but then that ceased, and then we ended up purchasing it back after Tommy and Mary Nichols had to do a foreclosure to recoup the property. And then I called them one day and said, hey, I want to buy this property. And they said, well, we have a story to tell you. I said, well, what's that? They said, SWAT team came in and tried to seize everything, and the police. Well, a Nye County Sheriff, a health department, a whole team of investigators rushed them one evening and basically ran them out of town. They had both properties that I own now, my farm on the other side of town, and they had the gas station property. And the important thing here is when I told my father about those stories, he said, Paul, I want you to start an exclusive investigation on redlining in the community. I'll be looking at your report. I want every 6 months, I want a full stack of documented reports, letters. Report to me and tell me what you came up with. So I started documenting.
So the question is, I know what redlining is, but the people listening and watching might not know what it is, so explain that to them.
Redlining was a tactic that was put in place mostly to control the lenders that were out of control at certain times. When they would draw a line around a valley, let's just say they drew a red line around Amargosa Valley, and they said, well, our water's running out, so what's our next move? Well, let's make it hard on all these folks over here. Let's try and run some of them out of there. And then if we have to file a condemnation suit and through the right of eminent domain take the property, we would have to buy the properties at a lot less of an amount if nobody was over there doing improvements to those properties.
Right.
So at that time, what happened was people would go around and lenders would put a red line and say, we're not going to mess with anybody within the Charleston Heights community. Let's just use that
So
for
we're
an
not going to
example.
lend any money to the people in that area.
In that area.
So nobody could develop
Right.
it.
Well, no. So that then it would crash and then they could buy them cheap and then they would resell them high.
Right.
You see? And so what lenders wanted to do was control everything, because if they did that, they could control the market. And of course, eventually what would happen is it would collapse a community.
Right.
And it would create a crash or a reset.
Right.
Which is something that I think we've all experienced and we don't want to see again soon.
Right. 2008, 2009.
Wow, but
Yeah, this place took a real bad hit.
yeah,
Took a
we're
bad
still
hit.
cleaning up Amargosa Valley. It's been a tough ride for us out there.
Okay. So now you think they did that to that piece of property. Now, did the last owners tell you that?
I think that the redlining that was done on my fuel station is 100% provable in court right now. I think that the situations that have taken place, from trying to deny me my water rights to my own well, all the way to slanderous acts of individuals in uniform being paid on the clock at Long Street Casino. If you're being paid to talk bad about me, and I've sent you a letter and said, please clean this up, and you have refused to do it in your establishment, there's a problem. You know, you're allowing someone to hate on the guy across the street.
Right.
You know, I try to live my life on a level of like the Kundalini, right? Which is this higher level of consciousness, and I try to take everybody into consideration. These other individuals are only taking greed into consideration, and they're attacking us.
Right. Well, greed drives a lot of people to do a lot of bad things.
Like cover up rapes.
Yes. Anything.
Yeah.
If it's somebody of any importance. I mean, it's been going on forever.
Yes.
You know,
I agree.
I mean, I came from New York. The stuff that went on there was crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, you still have all kinds of stuff going on, and people get away with it because they know the people of power.
Well, you know, unfortunately,
You don't
the
want to mention anybody names that we're talking about.
Let's just say the flower of fire has shifted.
Right. The people are starting to wake up.
Right.
Right.
Well,
And
the entourage effect will happen, you know, and cannabis is one of the things that ties to the entourage effect. So eventually all mankind will have an enlightening experience, and then it will be shared through all man. So that's what we're trying to see, and we're starting to visualize now. And as we're doing that, we're planting the seeds and we're laying down the roadmap for these other folks that maybe weren't awakened to it. And hopefully this radio show will go to wake them up and say, hey, we're being attacked right now, guys. How do we do it, and how do we make it right? You know, what I would like to see as a solution is, why doesn't Nye County commissioners put this same regulation that growers have on the sheriffs, on the deputies that are going into these establishments? If they put that regulation on them, they would know how to preserve evidence.
The
They
problem
would know
is-
how to tell the difference between a cannabis or a hemp plant.
the problem here is, and what we're having a problem in this country is, and it happens with our commissioners, they go in there with good intent,